Okay, so on to our last recipe. We didn't want to leave without doing some dessert, something a little sweeter. So we have a really nice recipe for applesauce spiced muffins, and this is from Maryland. Delicious recipe, really simple. And we're going to start off with the dry ingredients. So we're using just unbleached all-purpose flour. You can use spelt flour. You can use red Fife flour. Just remember, there's more fiber in that flour, so you might have to add a little bit more liquid to this recipe. So flour is going to go in, 1 cup, not much.
And you're going to see this is not your traditional muffin that you get,
No.
at a coffee shop. Marilyn L, as her name is, she's really maximized the nutrition and taken out some of the saturated and trans fats you would find in a traditional muffin.
Mm-hmm. So we have wheat germ, that's going to go in.
It's a great source of vitamin E, which is an antioxidant.
Now we have 3 ingredients here. Chia seed, which we used in the last class, hemp seed, and we have some ground flaxseed. Now you can use all 3 if you want, or if you just have 1 on hand, just use 1. So half a cup of the combination of the 3 of these is good.
So don't feel like you have to go out and buy a bag of every single one because it can get a little bit expensive. Use what you have. They're all going to work in a similar way, and their nutritional profile is similar as well. They all are good sources of fiber, and they contain omega-3 fatty acids, which are a type of fatty acid most of us don't get enough of in our diet. And they're important to get because they help to reduce inflammation. And inflammation is associated with chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. So trying to get more omega-3s helps put that inflammation into a better balance.
Baking soda, baking powder, there are leavening agents in there, and then our spices. So we have ground cinnamon, ground clove, and ground allspice. I mean, these are the nice kind of warm, when you think of pumpkin, apple, these are the more common spices. Ground ginger is a really nice one as well. And that's entirely up to you. Some people really like the cinnamon. You put that in there, and then we're gonna add just a pinch of salt. This is just going to help, again, pick up some of those flavors in there, and we're going to mix it well. So these are the dry ingredients, pretty simple. And now for the wet ingredients. So we're going to start off with 1 egg. We're going to mix that up, and we're going to add some grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil is a very neutral oil, doesn't really give you any flavor, so it's a good oil to use in baking. You can use olive oil in baking, you're going to taste the olives, but it's a nice oil to use there for baking because you're not going to start messing around with the flavors at all. So that's going to go in. We're going to add some water, and you can use brown sugar, organic cane sugar, or honey. If you use honey, on the recipe there, you can see at the last one, it says 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of applesauce. Just ignore the 2 tablespoons of applesauce. The honey is gonna increase more of that liquid volume, so you don't want it to be too wet. So I'm adding honey here, only 1 cup of unsweetened applesauce.
Applesauce is a great ingredient to use in your baking. It makes foods moist, so it helps to replace some of the fat or butter that you would normally be using in a recipe. And this is good, if you do have a sore mouth or are having difficulty swallowing, that applesauce is really going to help moisten up the muffin so it's not as dry.
It's the unsweetened applesauce.
Yes, and it's the unsweetened one. You want to go for the one without added sugar because it's already sweet on its own.
So that's it, wet ingredients. Dry slowly goes into wet. That's usually the safest, and by safe I mean less of a mess around the kitchen. And just add it slowly in there. If you have a helper.
When you get your kids to help you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, get the kids in the kitchen, absolutely.
they can work on their stirring skills.
They're going to get it all over the floor like me.
So that's going to go in, and the key to most baking, I'm not the baker by all means, but when you do things like muffins, like cakes, you just want to make sure you don't overwork it. That's the main thing. when you overwork it, the gluten in the batter becomes gummy after. It becomes overworked, it becomes too strong, and when you eat the muffin, it becomes gummy. So that's the key. As soon as it's combined, you can stop. And then we're gonna add the last 2 ingredients here. And again, this is an optional choice, and you can put whatever you want here. We got dates and pecans. You can use almonds. You can use raisins. I'm not a fan of raisins in my desserts. I don't know if anyone shares that sentiment, but
I feel like there's 2 camps on that. I have my family member always gets divided over whether we should put raisins in things or not.
and I love raisins.
Not in your baked goods.
Not my baked goods.
It does add a nice sweetness, and you're getting some extra fiber from it as well.
That's it. We're gonna spoon them into our muffin cups here. You want to go almost all the way to the top. It's gonna rise from the top there, and that's it. And it's gonna go into the oven 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. Our magic oven, and that's it. We did some small ones and we did some big ones. Makes about 12 of the large ones and about 24. Actually, a little more than 24 of the small ones.